if it's your first time visiting a symposium, you should just know that anyone is welcome to attend, regardless of major, background, or experience. So there's no restrictions there. And also presentations are not required. You don't have to be scheduled to present in order to just attend if you want to look around and see what other people are doing. So again, the only requirement is that you only be interested in learning about research that other people are conducting. So if you just have a free day and you want to go see what's up in the research world, a symposium is very interesting and a very rewarding experience. So leading into that, the UCR's Undergraduate Research Symposium 2023 is coming up. It's on April 25th through the 28th, so mark your calendars. So the first 3 days are virtual oral presentations done on Zoom. So those are kind of more lengthy. Those are the 25th through the 27th. And the last day will actually be in-person poster presentations at Pierce Lawn near the Bell Tower. So and that'll be on the 28th. So we have in-person and then virtual. So these presentations all represent faculty-led research across all colleges and disciplines. So the range is massive with that. So first of all, why are symposiums important? I almost said imposium, which kind of goes with why they're important. So first of all, you want to discover research undergrads what they're doing in your field or outside of your field. So first of all, in your field, right, you can see what is possible for you if you do want to conduct research at some point. So you'll see what your colleagues are doing and what you could get involved with possibly. That's good also for connecting with them. You can also ask them questions about how they got involved, how they got connected to that research. But contrary to popular belief, you can also conduct research outside of your field. So you can see research in every single way that it's offered, really. So you can see if, say, for example, you're a bioengineer, you want, like me, and you wanted to conduct research in materials or even in philosophy or anything like that, that's possible. So you can kind of get exposed to that and see what it might be like to conduct research in that other field. So yeah, there's, you go back, please. So yeah, research is being conducted in every UCR college and major. So there's theater arts, entomology, psychology, geology, just those are some examples. And so you are able to identify some of the students that are involved. And from there, you can ask like what faculty they're involved with and how their undergrad research experience went with them. And so it's a good way to connect. So it helps you better understand their research and what goes into that, because you first want to get a sense of what the research is like before you go and ask to see what it's to be part of that research lab. So you want to get an understanding of what the goal is, and symposiums offer that. They offer, in this case, this lady has a poster, and so she's describing all her introduction, her methods, and the results. So it's important to see like what you would physically be doing if you are interested in research or in that type of research. It also exposes you to all sorts of career paths and research paths. So if you want to conduct research, that's one thing, but also if you see a certain type of research as a possible career, it's also a good way to be exposed to that. So going on, so everybody has different academic backgrounds. And so that's why questions are very important, because not everybody is gonna, understand all the jargon that people are saying when they're presenting. And questions are highly encouraged, and presenters typically love their research, so they love answering questions about their research. So keep that in mind. Go ahead and ask people questions. I'm sure they'll give you heartfelt answer. So networking with presenters is very important, as my colleagues will continue on saying. But yeah, it just exposes you to all sorts of research and all the developments that are happening in all the various fields. So just to go into types of research involved in symposiums. So like I mentioned before, all colleges are involved: CNAS, CHAS, BCOE, School of Education, School of Business, School of Public Policy, School of Medicine. So, and they all support undergraduate research in one way or another. Some have more. I know CNAS is pretty huge. CHAS is also huge with research, but really it could come from anywhere. So there's creative projects, like below there's like a dance, there is dance research, there's wet lab-based research, dry lab-based research, and fieldwork. So again, the range is extensive of what you might see at a symposium. And so that goes into the different research presentation types. So the presentations come in all shapes and sizes because the research comes in all shapes and sizes. So for the symposium, we offer oral presentations, poster sessions, art exhibits, performances, electronic media, pretty much any way that effectively conveys that research. So someone here did a presentation on bees because the presentation format fit their type of research. And then, as you know, with COVID, there was a lot of, it had to happen virtually. So that kind of skewed the presentation style toward one way, but we are lucky this year that we were able to have in-person presentations as well. But yeah, keep an eye out for all sorts of different types of research presentations.
Yep. And so moving on, we just want to talk about what a symposium is like. This might be your first symposium, or you might have seen or gone to a few other symposiums. They might have just been online. So this might be your first experience going to an actual poster presentation. So we just want to introduce what symposiums are like and sort of give you a good step, like foot in the door for how the symposium will be. So what is a symposium like? So symposiums are a great way to introduce new research occurring around campus, or in other cases, occurring within a certain field. So they have symposiums that are held for maybe RNA biology or cancer research. So there's all types of symposiums in science and in different fields. And symposiums can be as specific as one certain subject or as broad as a whole campus. So at UCR, we're going to have a very broad symposium consisting of all colleges at the university. So there can be research from any type, such as dance, theater, or biochemistry. And then we also give you an opportunity to speak to young researchers about science and future goals. And there's going to be online and in person. So the first 3 days will be online, so all virtual. And the final day will be a poster presentation where you can walk around and look at research and speak with other researchers. So for online symposiums, they're based on a schedule. So there's a schedule on the UCR symposium website that gives you a list of who's presenting on what day at what times. And this schedule will show you what research is being done and where it's being presented and who's presenting what research. So you can really gear your attendance towards what you want to look at or what research you're interested in. And this is usually done on Zoom in a meeting room where the participant will speak and present their research on a slideshow. And you as an audience member will get a chance to respond with questions after the show is completed. And the two types of online research that will be done is emerging research, which is newly developed research that is still in the process of being finalized, versus completed research, which is finished research that has been finalized and may be on the way to being published. So these two researchers have slightly different requirements for their presenters. They also offer slightly different perspectives in terms of where their project is going. So in terms of poster presentations, this is what will be happening on the 28th, the final day of the symposium. A student will stand nearby their poster and give a brief presentation. This will be done on Pierce Lawn, so it will be outside. A lot of the times these are done inside large rooms or like large ballrooms and those type of rooms where someone can walk through. The audience is free to ask questions, walk around, and sort of interact with these researchers, maybe on a level that you wouldn't normally get at some other online presentations, because you're able to talk with them, you're able to spend as much time as they have and you have just speaking about research and networking. So these are great ways to talk with people in your field and sort of see different research that's being done and ask questions that might take a bit longer to answer. And it's also just a good way to meet new people and converse. So these are really fun and interesting ways to talk with people. And they're more than happy to speak because all the researchers are excited and interested in presenting their research, and they want to talk to you. So asking questions is a very important part of going to a symposium. So how to ask questions. There's going to be on the online oral presentations a moderator that will indicate when you're able to ask questions. And there will be a Q&A time that will be given to ask any question that you have. And these times are good to ask general questions about the slideshow, and we'll get into more specifics of what to ask, but there is a given time where you should ask. On the other hand, posters are more conversational. You can sort of say, I want a brief introduction to your project. You'll talk to the presenter. They'll usually give you a brief introduction of what they're doing and how that has been going for them, as well as just speaking with them, asking them, hey, that figure, I want to know more about it. And they'll go more into depth, or how did you do this experiment? And so it offers a lot more flexibility in terms of questions and answers. But you also might get a different perspective on a research project than you would normally get from a oral presentation. So these are a lot more conversational, and they can be a lot more interactive between you and the presenter, maybe even one-on-one, depending on how busy that presenter's poster is. And also listening carefully is a very important skill to have while going to symposiums. Is you have to pay attention to what they're saying in order to ask strong questions and in order to fully understand what they're trying to tell you with their research. And the presenters are excited to learn more about what you have to say as well, because they want to better their project in any way possible. So feel free to ask questions, clarify points that they made, and then also ask open-ended questions and make suggestions. These are good times to maybe make the presenter think as well and want to learn more about their own project. So some examples of good questions to ask are, what made you interested in doing this type of research? This is more of a general networking question that you can sort of talk with other people in your field about, like, why they're interested in their work. Would you yourself be interested in doing what they're doing? So this is a good way to learn more about just general research and how certain labs are. As far as the research itself, you can say for emerging research, how far along the research process is the presentation, because sometimes they may be very early on, sometimes they may be closer to presenting and they just need a few more big experiments to finish. So it's a good question to sort of gauge where they are in their project. What their future plans for research is a good question for networking. You can sort of talk to them about your future plans and maybe learn more about what you want to do in the future or what other people in your field are doing. And then talking about challenges, it's always important to speak with other researchers about challenges so that you yourself can learn from their not necessarily mistakes, but also their hardships in research, and maybe sort of gain a new perspective on their work and on your own work. So it's good to ask about challenges and unexpected findings and learn about their research process. And then how can you expand? Can you expand upon the implication of your research? So like implications is a broad term, right? And sometimes you want to specify as like how this research will impact a certain area of your field. So maybe how this understanding of this certain small genes will impact this area of biology. And so it's always important to understand the implications, because that's why we do research, in order to create better changes in the world. And then what has surprised you about your research outcomes is another interesting question. These questions are just suggestions, and obviously you can tailor them to however you want. But just knowing more about the presenter and knowing more about the research is always the best way to go with these questions.
All right, so now I'm going to be talking about networking at the Undergraduate Research Symposium. All right, so let's go ahead and start. So starting with, what is networking? So networking is the process of thinking about whom to reach out to, why, with what goal, and how to do so. So more importantly, how to do so in a manner that enhances the relationship for both parties and maximizes the benefit that you gain. Essentially, when you're networking at the Undergraduate Research Symposium, you're going to be talking to other undergraduates, mostly maybe some faculty who are nearby or some postdocs or some graduate students. So you want to establish a relationship with them that can benefit you, but could also potentially benefit them. So some benefits for yourself could be knowledge sharing, collaboration, connections, and cultivating meaningful relationships. And so in order to do so, we advise that you have a plan. So you do not need to know the most people, just create meaningful connections with the right people. Essentially, the people that you do talk to, it's more about the quality of what you say to them and the kinds of conversations that you have with either the researchers or the faculty or the graduate students that you talk to, but not necessarily going around to every single poster and introducing yourself, because maybe that won't give you the opportunity to have meaningful connections with those individuals. So we suggest that you be proactive and create a list of presenters that you would like to engage with on purpose. So essentially, because we do have that schedule available to you on the student engagement website, we suggest that you go on that website and look at the list of presenters who are maybe in your field or in a field that you're interested in doing research with. And so you can keep an eye out for those presenters when they're doing their poster presentations or when they're doing their talks on Zoom. So you can go to those presentations and perhaps get a connection with them. And we suggest that you find out what work they're interested in and potentially how you could relate to them. So for example, if somebody is doing a presentation on emotion regulation, you can find different presenters who are doing work in regards to that, and then see what specifically about that are they working on and how might you be interested in that as well, and determine a relevant personal link. So when you go up and talk to them, you want to kind of open with, I'm also an undergrad here, or I'm also a psych student here, or I'm also a biochem student here, I'm also in this organization that you're in. And so that's going to create a relevant personal link to that other presenter or faculty member or graduate student that you're talking to. And also manage the expectations and realize that every person you connect with can lead to beneficial outcomes. You'll learn something new, you'll find new opportunities. Some people will help you more and some people will help you less. And that's just how it goes when you're networking. Some people will give you a lot of information and it'll be really great. You'll learn a lot from the conversation. And then from other conversations, you might learn a little bit more about the other person. They might not give you as much information about their research, but any conversation you have with anyone else at these kinds of conferences is always beneficial. And so introduce yourself. So this is most effective at the poster session, just because when you're going to a talk, and as Ibrahim mentioned earlier, you're going to have a time to do Q&A after the presenters give their talk. That's not necessarily the time you want to unmute yourself and introduce yourself. This is more effective at the poster session when it's a little bit more conversational, a bit more casual. This is the best space that the conference has given in order to do that kind of networking. So we suggest that you develop a 15 to 30-second personal pitch. So your name, your current affiliations that might be relevant, and try to identify a connection with the presenters that you're speaking to. So for example, for myself, I would say, hey, my name is Purnima. I'm a fourth-year psychology student here. I noticed that you're working in this professor's lab. I've taken a class with this professor and I found her work really interesting. What kind of work have you done? And so that kind of gives the presenter an understanding of who are you? Why are you reaching out to them? What do you find interesting about their work? And kind of giving them a platform and a space in order to open up. And these are some questions that you can give the presenters. So one is, how did you get involved in your domain of research? This is a great question because a lot of the presentations are from undergrads. They're all from undergrads. And so when you're asking another undergrad, how did you get involved? They can give you a lot of information on what they did in order to get involved with that field's work. So for example, how you get involved in research in psychology is very different from how you get involved in research in biochemistry. And so say you're from a field that's different from the field of interest that you have, that's a really great opportunity to learn from students who are working in those research labs right now about how they got involved. The second one is, how did you find out about more opportunities on campus? So this is a great way to talk to presenters and see what else are they interested in. So a lot of students here who are involved in research are also involved in other things on campus. And so this is a great way to learn more about that. Other questions are, what advice would you give to a student interested in getting involved in research on campus? Great way to learn about advice. How do you know if any programs, or do you know of any programs on or off campus that have helped you professionally? This is great in terms of networking because it gives you a better idea of what UCR students have access to in terms of professional development? And do you know if your professor is looking for more undergraduate researchers? So if you're interested in their work, this is a great question for that. And in terms of maintaining connections, you can ask the presenters that you're interested in networking with for their LinkedIn or their UCR email. I suggest not to force this. So if they're a little bit hesitant to give you their information, don't ask more than twice, just to respect their space. And also, if they do give you their information, follow up with them. Then thank you for any information they shared with you. And you can ask to take a picture of their poster. All right, so that's our presentation. So thank you for your attention. And so this is the space we're going to stop the recording, and feel free to ask any questions.